Welcome to Behind the Purple Door, and today I want to share 5 knitting rules with you that I wish I'd broken sooner. When you start knitting, there are a lot of people online and offline that will have tips for you, insights, their experiences, and they want to help and they will give all this information to you. And if you're a little bit like me, you're prone to be like, oh, if that is their experience, then that is my experience. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So let me know in the comments down below if you've heard of any of these recommendations, if you've broken any of these rules, or if you're thinking of breaking any of those rules in the future. So let's start right with one that is really close to my heart because it is my personal experience, and that is you don't have to start with beginner pattern because there is no such thing as a perfect beginner pattern. Yes, there are some things that make a pattern beginner friendly. If it is size inclusive when you're knitting a garment, or it has a limited amount of techniques you have to apply, yes, but you don't have to knit a Sophie scarf to get started. And no hate on the Sophie scarf, but it's just the really popular starting pattern I see everywhere. And I would have been bored to death knitting a Sophie scarf. To give you a little bit of background, my first project was a rectangular scarf. To get into the swing of things with just purling and knitting, no shaping, and I was bored to death. I stopped knitting for 2 years because I thought this is probably the most boring hobby I've ever encountered. And that is my personal opinion or experience. It doesn't have to be yours. But if you're someone who's looking for a challenge, or maybe you want to knit a sweater, your ultimate goal is to knit a sweater, well, knitting 10 Sophie scarves might get you better in tensioning and stuff, but it is not getting you any closer to getting that sweater you really want to have than not having those Sophie scarves. So my recommendation is listen to the advice, but kind of question where is it coming from? What is the advice telling you, and not taking it word for word. So if someone is telling you knit a Sophie scarf, they might want to tell you don't do anything overcomplicated. Okay, so start with a sweater that does have the minimal amount of shaping in there. Don't do cables, do basic sweater. That will get you closer to your ultimate goal. If your goal is to have a beautiful brioche scarf, well, start with a scarf or a shawl. Maybe don't start with a complicated textured brioche knit, but start with the thing you want to have in the end. Number 2, you don't have to share everyone's knitting opinions. We're all constantly on the interwebs and we're confronted with a lot of opinions on things. And one of the opinions that was brought to me really early on and really intensively was, we hate purling. Somehow we've collectively decided to hate purling at a certain point. When I started knitting, it was everywhere on Instagram, on YouTube, with the people I've talked to. Everyone was telling me, if you want to knit a cardigan, steek it. Why not steeking it if so you can avoid purling? Well, yes, that might be a good idea in some cases, but that is not always the solution. And why do we hate purling? I love purling. I can say that honestly. After I've realized I don't have to hate it, well, now I knit garments mostly flat and in pieces, and I don't mind doing that. And that is one example. Same thing is with vintage knitting patterns. People will tell you in the beginning there's really little information, it is really complicated to knit in pieces. And yes, there is less information in a vintage knitting pattern, but there are so many people out there trying to help you create those garments, reading those instructions, getting your swing on things. It's not like 100 years ago that when nobody taught you, there weren't resources. You can totally do that. It is not as complicated as you think. So now we've talked about 2 things other people will bring to you, their opinions and their recommendations. The third one is kind of something that you have to figure out for you yourself if that is something you want to do. And that is, patterns are suggestions and not laws. There are hundreds and thousands of patterns out there from a lot of people that are pretty similar. They might have a different construction, they might have a beautiful pattern, and you might be overwhelmed with the different choices. Do I need the same pattern for a sweater and a cardigan? Do I need 10 basic sweaters? Well, that depends on what you want to achieve. Tip number 3 is depending on who you are. If you want to have 100 patterns that are similar, but you just want to try the patterns, you want to support the designers, that is totally fine. I'm more the person that wants to understand the instructions, the construction, and then do their own thing. And the best example is the top I'm currently wearing. Some of you might recognize the pattern. This is the Fleur tee. And I have the pattern and I really wanted to knit it for the longest time, just didn't want to have to think. So I have a basic block for the summer top. I knew the yarn, I knew the gauge that I was going to achieve, and I just wanted to start knitting. So I took the pattern, the pattern repeat, and I did my own thing. And that was really relaxing and what I needed in that moment. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the pattern or that I'm not going to knit that in the future, but it just means I'm more flexible and creative in what I can do with something someone else created. Rule number 4, tailoring can change everything. In today's fashion, and I've talked about this in multiple videos already, is more oversized and comfortable. We're not really dressing for a tailored look as we might have done in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. And there are a lot of reasons. If you want to know my point of view on why this is, I will link the video up here below. But what I want to talk to you about today is you can even tailor in oversized or modern casual fit garments. You have to understand your body, and once you understand your body, your different shapes, you can actually make garments that will look perfect for you. If you have a large bust, that is something you've probably already been exposed to, that a lot of garments don't have bust shaping in there. And you might have added that for yourself because you knew how to do that, or there are some patterns out there that would have done that for you. And that is amazing because you are creating a garment. It should be perfect for you. You should make something that fits your body and not make your body fit someone else's opinion or pattern or design. And I have really narrow shoulders. So for the longest time, I wanted to achieve this vintage silhouette, but the shoulders would always kind of drop off at the wrong point. And once I've done a basic block, I've measured myself and I analyzed that, and I realized that I could simply adjust patterns on the sleeve shaping and on the neckline shaping, and I would have more narrow shoulders. You can do that in your own designs, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. You can use that for existing patterns, even if you're a beginner. Knowing the way your body is structured, is built, is such a superpower when you're creating your own garments. You don't have to wait years to master tailoring your garments. And tip number 5, knit for who you are, not for Instagram. And I'm using Instagram for all the social media that is out there. You have a life, you have an everyday. And you know, the feeling when you finished a garment, you really want to wear it, and then you realize, well, I don't have a reason to wear that because I've made, I don't know, a glittering, lacy silk top, and I have to go to the kindergarten or to the playground and pick up my kids, and it's going to get dirty and torn, and I can't wear it. Well, that would be so sad. It would rob you of the amazing feeling and satisfaction of wearing your finished garment. So take a closer look into yourself. What is your everyday? What are your needs? And then create garments that you really want to wear and that not everyone else is telling you is beautiful. And I remember starting knitting, there were so many beautiful garments out there I've seen on Instagram, on YouTube, from all of the people that I would watch the podcasts from. And these garments, they would look beautiful on them, and I would recreate them and never wear them because I am not them. There are so many beautiful, oversized, modern fit garments. I have a Kumulus blouse and I love the look of it, but I never wear it. I even went to the extent of buying pants only for this blouse, and now they're in there in my closet, and they've basically never been worn because I don't really wear modern pants. And I could have known that, but I saw the Cumulus blouse everywhere and I saw the colors and I wanted to have this shiny, beautiful thing. Well, I'm not wearing the shiny, beautiful thing. So I don't know. I don't think this is something everyone wants to hear, but if you really take that extra moment to analyze your style and your life, you're just gonna be so much happier at the end. And let me give you one last thought before you leave me here. Don't forget that all these opinions we have on the garments we make, on the things we want to have, are rules that somebody else made up at some point, but they're not universal truths. You can make your own truths. So happy knitting.